Good morning to you all, good morning. It is Thursday the 27th of June 2019. Yeah, that's an interesting thing to look at, isn't it? That's of course an onion. I planted that onion and yeah, it's going to give us some seed for next year. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about today. Every day should be seen as some sort of adventure, and today I'm in England where the temperature is not too bad at all. You know, we're hearing in the news about the terrible temperatures in Europe where they're worried that lots of people might end up jumping in rivers and drowning and such likes. But I'm at a secret location in England, but I'm going somewhere that's very not secret today. Going to visit the Greenwich Museum. I've never been there, but very kindly someone has organised some complimentary tickets to some attractions there. Now, I say Greenwich, and it's one of those places that tourists have trouble saying because of course it's spelt Greenwich, and in my former life we quite often would find particularly Americans who would say, hey, you know, how do we get to Greenwich? It's Greenwich, and I think you're going to enjoy, I think I'm going to enjoy myself today. So we'll take you along and hopefully you'll enjoy the attractions that can be found there. Now the place that we're going, Greenwich, or Greenwich for the Americans, Greenwich, you need to get on the Docklands Light Railway, which for those of you that don't know, it's actually getting on to be quite old now, but it uses a lot of the old train tracks that went down to the old docks and such likes, but it's a driverless mass transport system. So there we are, Docklands Light Railway. This is proper touristy sort of stuff. I'm going to be a proper tourist today. This is the Cutty Sark, extensively repaired and restored. She was built as a tea clipper. So those of you that know me know that anything that brings tea from India to England is all right by me. And I'm guessing that that's probably the way in. So let's go and do some tourist things. It's always difficult seeing something when you're close up to it. Of course what we're looking at is the hull and keel. Nicely copper clad, because of course where this ship used to work there's all sorts of wood boring worms and things. Oh, yeah, 70% copper, 30% zinc. Now, the Cutty Sark was built as a tea clipper, so we've got representations of tea chests telling the story.
57,995 nautical miles. That's the same as going to the moon and back 2.5 times. In 1922, on her way to Lisbon, the ship was spotted in Falmouth by Captain Dowman, a retired sea captain who paid over the odds to buy Cutty Sark and restore her as a sail training ship, securing her survival into the 20th century. Since 1957, Cutty Sark has been open to visitors in Greenwich.
A lot of the exhibits on the ship tell the story of the cargoes that she carried. And of course, no one wants to take a ship anywhere empty.
In 2 minutes' time, there will be a performance with me, Nanny, Cutty Sark's figurehead. Dance, sing and set sail on adventure with me as I share amazing stories about Cutty Sark and how the ship got her name. To take, make your way to the figurehead collection underneath the ship.
Well, yes, after that short interruption. So, of course, from England, from Great Britain out to what we might call the Empire, should have been taking finished product and bringing raw material from the Empire, you know, jute, rice, tea, wool from Australia. So the exhibits sort of tell the story of what the ship is actually all about. Oh, give me a tall ship to sailing, star to steer her by. Any old sailors amongst you, proper Madalos? I know Brother George was in the Navy, and I dare say that's the sort of rigging that he was used to. Got to find somewhere to do your doggying, haven't you? This is crew accommodation. Sort of cosy, really, isn't it? Well, a chap needs full facilities if he's going to live for months on end on a ship. And of course there's the ship's wheel. At the back of the ship. And over the front we can see water, but sadly this ship will never see water again. She's preserved, she stands up high and dry and is preserved for posterity. You know, to put it into the sea would of course risk her. And there are plenty of other tall ships that do go to sea, so that's fair enough, isn't it? Well, this is quite a thing to stand underneath a ship this size, rather hoping that all those struts will keep her up there while we do so. This area is used as a cafeteria and restaurant and what have you. That's quite an impressive piece of ship, isn't it? Of course, proper sailors will call this the bow or the stem or something. Those of us who aren't, we just say the sharp end. And up there, above that glass roof, is a figurehead on the ship. But what's displayed down here is a collection of figureheads rescued from old commercial merchant navy ships. That's quite a thing to see there. Gorgeously painted and beautifully decorated. And of course, the ship isn't complete without a figurehead, is it? There she is. If you watched the last video, and really there's much better things to do than watch my videos, but if you did, you'll have heard us talking about the Thames. Well, of course, this is the River Thames. Old Father Thames, if you like. Quite a building, isn't it? And as the name over the doorway suggests, this is the National Maritime Museum. Probably ought to sing "May Your Anchor Hold," but I'm not sure the public are quite ready for me to do that. That's quite an impressive piece of, well, it's forged steel, of course. It's one of the anchors from the old Ark Royal, the last proper aircraft carrier that Britain had. And to keep it company on the other side, there's a different type of anchor. And we'll go and read the label, because it will tell us what it is. This one was a spare. Belonged to the Union Castle Now Steamship Company. Oh, that's a shame that it's a spare. We can't say that it was on a very famous ship. That's a big chunk of metal, isn't it? That would be an interesting engine to put in a rat rod, wouldn't it? got a bad feeling that some of this is going to be very difficult to film because of glare on glass and such likes. But you walk into a room and that's the builder's model of the King George V, an old British battleship. What a wonderful... Wouldn't it be nice to have a bath that you could play with that boat in the bath? It's a wonderful, wonderful model. But I think this is one of those places that whatever video I do manage to get will only give you a taste. And you know, the answer is that you really need to come here and see it for yourself. That would be an interesting thing for stopping burglars, wouldn't it? Okay. Everywhere you look here, there's something to see, and I think it's a bit of a mistake trying to see everything in one day, but one day is all I've got. That's a heck of a figurehead, isn't it? This is, you know, we're now into the afternoon, and to be honest, I'm now well into sensory overload. So far I've rushed about and I've seen lots of wonderful, wonderful things, but yeah, I think this is really a job that should be a week's visit rather than a day. But there we are, things are what they are. This part of the building was used in the filming of the film of the opera Les Miserables. I've watched the film and for the life of me I can't sort of place it, but I guess they had all sorts of stage lighting. On top of the hill is the Royal Observatory. Let me just twiddle with the camera a bit. There we are, that's better. We'll be walking up there later. As you can see, it's a glorious day here. They are, of course, my own personal security team. You know, when you're involved in international intrigue and world politics, you do get helicopters that cover you while you visit places like the Queen's house. I must confess at the moment I don't know which Queen. I think Queen Anne or somebody. I'll know shortly. For all those of you thinking about laying a floor, you could always do it like that. part of the building houses artwork. There we are. Conservation volunteers voluntarily conserving. There's an awful lot of artefacts and things and paintings here, and far too many to see in a day, to be honest. Well, I showed you this place from down the hill, so it's only reasonable to show you that place from up the hill. Now, what we can see behind is the ugly monstrosities that represent wealth. Immediately behind the Greenwich Hospital is Docklands. You can see some of the names on some of the towers, HSBC and various others. It's probably not the sort of place I want to be visiting. But of course, if we swing the camera around that way, and if we zoom a little bit, you can see the buildings of the City of London. You might be able to make out the shape of the gherkin. I've shown you the gherkin from the ground, and it sort of dwarfs. Where are we? Let's see how close we can get. St Paul's Cathedral, you can see the dome of the cathedral, but it's insignificant in size to these great monstrosities. You know, for me, that is all that is ugly. But then, maybe if I owned the land that it's all built on, I wouldn't mind so much. I'd take the rent, I guess. But that's rather a special view, isn't it? Now, you can't actually come to Greenwich without seeing the Greenwich Meridian. Navigators all over the world know exactly what the Greenwich Meridian is. but some would say it's the line that divides east from west. But of course, because it is such a touristy sort of thing, everybody wants to stand on it and have their picture taken, and you know, why not? Why not? Now what we're looking at is described as the Great Equatorial Telescope, and yeah, this is a little bit bigger than your average sort of can I see your house from here sort of telescope. It's on a wonderful sort of frame. Would be wonderful to see it actually being swung into use, wouldn't it? That would make a jolly good bike shed, really, wouldn't it? Might build one like that when I get back to France.